Do you know, if I tried to build up my tri-bike from 2004 with today's modern wheels, they wouldn't even fit in the frame. What's going on with that? And is it even a good thing? Hey everybody, Nick from TriRig here. Today, I want to look at some of the evolution of wheels and tires in the sport of triathlon and time trialing, what those trends have meant for the sport, and where we might be headed next. One of the best places to start might actually be the 2004 Tour de France team time trial. This was during the Lance Armstrong years, and his US Postal team would go on to win that particular event. But what's interesting to me is that equipment played an important role in that day's race. Traditional wisdom was that narrow tires are faster, and most teams rode on really slick 18 to 19 millimeter wide rubber. But due to the rainy weather that day, the Postal team insisted on using the widest, beefiest tires, which would fit in their Trek team time trial frames. These frames were built really narrow, and they can't accommodate anything wider than about 22, 23 millimeters. But that was enough of a difference to help the Postal team avoid crashes on those slick, wet roads during that rainy day and allow them to take corners at a slightly greater speed. Well, the wider tires, and everything else they did to go fast. But fast forward to today, and 23 millimeters would be considered a pretty narrow tire today, even in flat, windless TT events. That's because most rims have now ballooned out between 25 and 30 millimeters wide, and anything which doesn't bulge out wider than the rim itself will usually tend to work well aerodynamically on the rim. That increase to wider rims really started in earnest with Zip, especially with the introduction of their Firecrest line around 2011-2012. Those rims started at about 25 millimeters wide and steadily increased in width to where we are today, often in the 28 to 31 millimeter space. For a long time, we kept hearing that widths would continue to increase, but we seem to have hit a relative ceiling in the triathlon and TT space of just over 30 millimeters or so. But apart from the rim's width, we've also seen dramatic changes to disc braking and also tubeless tires. Good tubeless tires can introduce a little bit of a learning curve or logistical hurdles in terms of setup and inflation, but what they offer in return is potentially lower rolling resistance and a potential reduction in flats. So if you want to go tubeless, you may be in for a bit of hassle, but potentially benefit from it. And fortunately, most tubeless tires are dual purpose. They can be used both on tubeless rims without a tube or in traditional clincher rims with a tube. Tires like the Continental GP5000 have become super popular for their excellent combination of low rolling resistance, good aerodynamic performance, decent flat resistance, and their dual purpose use. Personally, I rode on their predecessor, the GP4000S2, for quite some time, and the GP5000 has proven to be a fantastic evolution in the lineup with multiple widths available and that broad compatibility. It used to be that for ultimate performance, pros would turn to tubular tires, which have to be semi-permanently glued to the rim. They were a little bit lighter and had a little bit lower rolling resistance, but these have all but disappeared from the market with the successful evolution of good carbon clincher and carbon tubeless rims and tires. If you're thinking of upgrading to a tubeless setup, just make sure you get a good education and some practice using them before you go making a swap 2 days before your race. But zooming out, what about wheel construction generally? We've gone a bit wider, manufactured fast tires to match, but what about the rims themselves? What's new there? Take a look here at the very interesting option from Ron Wheels. This is their Ultron 2-spoke. Rather than using metal spokes or a traditional carbon tri-spoke design, this wheel has a single beam going all the way across and relies on some careful shaping to help slice through the wind as efficiently as possible. These wheels were ridden to the fastest Ironman bike split in history with Robert Callan's 354 split at Ironman Vitoria-Gasteiz. I haven't done a lot of riding on them myself, but all the empty space here would tend to suggest that they have lower side forces, potentially making them easier to handle than a tri-spoke or a deeper front wheel like a Zip 808. Personally, I try to keep my front wheels relatively shallow. I don't like anything deeper than about 45 millimeters, and these do seem to fit the bill. In the back, this is the matching Ultron disc wheel. Discs are always going to be the fastest option and can be very nice to ride, but in a situation with a lot of intermittent gusts of wind, they can make your life a little bit difficult. That's why Ironman bans discs for Kona. The winds on the north side of the island are similar to what you can find here in the foothills of Colorado. Nothing to sneeze at, but if you absolutely must have the fastest wheel on the planet, accept no substitutes. The Ron wheels here are also nice in that they pre-tape the wheels for you, eliminating one of the steps of tubeless or clincher setup, making your life just a little bit easier. But what about you? What are you riding? Are you still on that 21mm wide tubular wheel that's been glued to perfection? Have you jumped to a tubeless disc braking setup? Are you riding an 808 front disc rear all day long? Or, like me, do you need a shallower wheel up front to make sure the wind doesn't blow you off course? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what all of you are riding on and what you're headed to for the coming season. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.